Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has been indicted on felony charges that he committed securities fraud and failed to register with the state to sell securities while he was still in the private sector. After seeing the charges against Tom DeLay tossed out and the trumped-up nonsense they tried to pin on Governor Rick Perry, it's not a surprise that a lot of folks heard about the indictment and reserved their opinion, mine included. Texas Democrats have a great history of abusing the justice system, as do Texas Republicans on other Republicans that they dislike, as a way to settle political scores. But the charges don't look good, and a lot of folks that know him are waiting to hear more before defending or condemning Paxton. But the plot thickens as now there are accusations of jury tampering that have surfaced. Blogger Adam Kahn joins me now to talk about the latest on this story. And you can find him on Twitter at Conman's Musings. Adam, thanks for joining me. You've been following this story. I mean, how serious are these accusations? Because I've been in Texas now for a couple of years, and it seems as though everyone loves to settle their political disputes by filing charges and indicting people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As to how serious the charges are, if they were serious charges, I mean, these are first-degree felonies. Conceivably, for the two first-degree felonies, those carry a penalty of 5 to 99 years.
Wow, that's quite a long time that he would be behind bars. I mean, let me ask you this: do you think he's guilty?
No.
You don't think he's guilty? Is this, I mean, is there a little bit of culpability in this, or is this just entirely, you think it's another like Rick Perry indictment, Rosemary Lemberg indictment?
Well, I will say he may have made a couple mistakes on filing some paperwork 5 or 6 years ago. And look, normally when people misfile some paperwork, they pay a small fine, which Paxton actually did a year ago, and it's over, it's settled. But basically right now you're turning a paperwork violation into a first-degree felony where the alleged victim is a liberal Republican and the alleged perpetrator is a conservative Republican.
Give me the game plan, because is this something that Democrats are behind, or could this be establishment Republicans in Texas? Because sometimes they're hard to tell apart.
To understand this case properly, you have to understand that Texas politics are a little bit different from what you see elsewhere in the country. Here in Texas, you have the setup where it's basically you have, the conservative grassroots, the Tea Party, whatever you want to call them, basically the people who elected Ted Cruz on the one side. And on the other hand, you have a lobbyist-funded coalition of Democrats and legacy Republicans that works together a lot more often than they work apart. Where this comes down in the Paxton case is there's a group called Texans for Public Justice. They were instrumental in the Perry indictment. They've been going after Republicans for years. They ginned a lot of this stuff up. But what's interesting is that this time, the person actually making the accusation against Paxton is a legacy Republican member of the state legislature, Byron Cook, out of Corsicana.
Interesting. So there's some, and obviously they have some political score to settle with Paxton. What's the benefit of them tying him up?
Well, to understand this, you have to understand Byron Cook and Ken Paxton came into the legislature. Paxton's a former legislator. He got elected to Attorney General last year. Prior to that, he spent a decade in the legislature. Cook and Paxton came in together as freshmen in 2003 in the first Republican majority since Reconstruction. Now, when that happened, over time, basically, Cook went more towards the Bush legacy wing. Paxton stayed true to his conservative roots, but they were friends for a while and actually did some business stuff together 5, 6, 7 years ago. And that's where this whole thing stems from. Now, subsequent to that, Byron Cook has basically gone over completely to the dark side. And the fact that he is the alleged victim in this case raises major red flags.
Yeah, that is incredibly interesting, the storied saga behind this. So, I mean, what's the next step? Because, I mean, obviously, Paxton's been indicted. He turned himself in. He had a smirking mugshot. I would anticipate that they're going to go after this full force the same way that they've done with Perry and the Lemberg case. I mean, they do stand a chance. I mean, you said it's a paperwork error and that he's being charged for a first-degree felony for a paperwork error, but that he still could be convicted of that.
Anything's possible in theory.
That's crazy.
But yeah, no, as far as here's actually what's really interesting, and I'm not a lawyer, but I've read some stuff in the legal press, and then if I can also give a plug for John Cassidy at watchdog.org.
Yes, he does a
Put out
great job.
Fantastic article about some of the legal aspects of this, I think yesterday. But usually when these type of, securities fraud cases come up, usually it involves the alleged perp telling an active lie
Right.
to the other person in the transaction.
Right.
That didn't happen in this case. In this case, Ken is being accused of not mentioning that he hadn't invested in the stock that he was allegedly attempting to get Byron Cook to invest in.
Interesting. Well, we're going to be following this story because there's going to be a lot more explosions from it.
Can I just mention one
Yeah,
more thing?
absolutely.
Okay, one final thing about Byron Cook, and this is very, very important for folks to know. He has a primary opponent. His primary opponent is named Thomas McNutt. He's a small business owner in Corsicana, Texas. And if you're interested in learning more, you can go to thomasmcnutt, MCNUTT.com.
I like the way you think, Adam. Adam Kahn. Find him at Conman on Twitter. Adam, thank you so much for your perspective on this. Good to see you.
Thanks, Dana.
The latest on the GOP debate that everybody is talking about after this.